The CBRM has been in an absolute uproar over the bad deal from Tim Houston and John Lohr. They gave us a discount on some provincial services, but they also cut back our equalization transfer at the very same time. But what if there was a great deal for the CBRM that involved handing over our entire police department? Hi, I'm Joe Ward of Boxer Shorts Media, and there may be several of you out there that think that's impossible. To that I say, if the police department stays in place, it's a little bit like the local McDonald's franchise owner selling to someone else. Someone else is going to be responsible for keeping it going, but we can still get a quarter pounder with cheese whenever we want one. In Bill 340, the Municipal Reform Act, Houston would take corrections fees, fees for public housing cost deficits, and would take shuttered schools off of our books. The idea is that we collect a few million that we no longer need to pay back to the province, and then we can spend the savings, which is likely, or give a tax cut with those savings, which is not likely. Taking the police department off of our books and freeing us from the responsibility of overseeing it would be a huge win. That department costs almost $28 million and will cost more each year by more than $1 million. That creates a massive hole in our annual revenue of over $162 million. If you think of our revenue as the Titanic for the CBRM, then the police department is our iceberg. With that $28 million plus in expenses off our books, we'd actually have some room not only to breathe, but to maneuver. So we can talk about that another day, but for now I'll let you use your imagination. I can tell you one thing, Mayor Amanda McDougall Merrill wouldn't be complaining to the Law Amendments Committee in Halifax if that $28 million was an incentive in Bill 340. So if we're being real, the CBRM doesn't really manage the police anyway. They just approve the budget every year and then they pay up. The Houston government would be a much tougher boss to have and might actually make some organizational changes that would be beneficial, severing those cozy ties between the CBRM and the department. Now, could Houston be convinced to do it? Well, it's not really that much more costly considering that he really owes us about $15 million in that top-up that he gave but then took away. But there's another major reason why it makes way more sense than you might agree with at first glance. The police department probably belongs under the Department of Health and Wellness. How much of what they do doesn't come as a direct result of mental health or addictions issues, and over again. They're as much of an agency of the Department of Health as the coroner, and that both of them deal with the negative consequences of poor outcomes within our healthcare system. They just so happen to have handcuffs instead of stethoscopes.
As a member of the healthcare community, as an emergency room doctor, I really look at the police as a valuable and integral part of that whole team whose job it is to make the community more safe.
Now, I'm not one of those defund the police folks. If you're in any kind of danger, I can absolutely assure you, you'll be wishing to see the red and blue arrive to get you out of that situation. Houston can go ahead and double the department budget if he likes, just as long as it's no longer on CBRM's books. We're going to be too preoccupied with reducing taxes and buying a fleet of new buses to really pay attention. We'll be preoccupied with trying to figure out how to thrive for once instead of managing our decline. A long shot? Most definitely. But there's a better chance when you have a premier that experiments and calls himself a solutionist. For now, let's just call it a thought experiment. But eventually we have to get a massive budget item that will soon soar to over $30 million a year in check some way, somehow. For all videos, subscribe to Boxer Shorts Media on your choice of YouTube or Facebook.
Please hang up and try again.